Hello everyone, Time to Grind here, and today I wanted to talk about Telltale Games shutting down. And if you don't know who or what Telltale Games was, it was a game studio, though it started out a long time ago making like the Sam and Max games, and you might have heard Poker Night at the Inventory. And then randomly in 2012 they made The Walking Dead, and The Walking Dead was that, 5-episodic series that was a kind of like choose your own adventure game, and it was super unique. It was just it was like a movie, but you had influence on it. There wasn't that much gameplay. It was mainly just story and narrative driven, and it was really good. And I played it, and I mean, it blew up. Everybody and their mother knew what the game was, and apparently the company, after the success of that, just tried to expand their company immensely. They hired a bunch of people, they got a bunch of licenses, and they just tried to start pumping out games with this formulaic kind of thing. They never really tried to fix their engine, make their engine better. They kind of just took their engine, took their system, the cookie cutter factory system that they had, and they just started mass producing these games. So to kind of list some of them out, like I said, you had the original Walking Dead in 2012, and then in 2013 you had Wolf Among Us, you had The Walking Dead Season 2, so that's just two things, it's not that much. In 2014 you had Tales from the Borderlands and Game of Thrones, and then in 2015 you had Minecraft Story Mode, and then they actually just extended that with like an adventure pass. So that was kind of all what 2015 was. 2016 you had The Walking Dead, which was like a just small little 3-episodic thing. You had Batman, you had The Walking Dead: A New Frontier, another Walking Dead thing, and then in 2017 you had Guardians of the Galaxies, Minecraft Story Mode, another Batman game, and then they kind of like released a Walking Dead collection. And then 2018, this year, they were working on the final season of Walking Dead. They were going to be making the Wolf Among Us Season 2, Game of Thrones Season 2, and eventually at some point a Stranger Things game. And apparently recently, a couple days ago, they just, the day of, they didn't tell any of their employees that it was coming or anything like that. They just fired 200, and I've heard either the number 225 or 250, so I'm not sure which number is correct there. A lot of news sites are saying that 225 employees were fired and 25 remain to kind of fulfill plans that they had. And then I'm hearing numbers that 250 employees got fired and then 25 stay. So I don't know which number it is, but it's a lot of employees, and apparently they're not getting severance pay or anything like that, and they were told the day of, and they were like, oh yeah, you have 30 minutes to leave the building. And so, I mean, that sucks. That in itself is ridiculous. I mean, to get to the point where you have to just fire everybody on the spot immediately, don't even give them severance pay. I mean, it's just disgusting, because, I mean, especially because where they're located, that's a high cost of living. So a lot of the people, I mean, they're going to be like, how am I going to pay rent this month? Because a lot of them, I'm sure, were paying paycheck to paycheck. So, I mean, that is disgusting, and it's so bad. And I've seen a lot of like Twitter accounts for like I saw particularly Blizzard and a couple other game studios being like, hey, we're hiring, definitely if you work from Telltale Games, come apply for some of our jobs. So they're trying to get a couple of them, but obviously 225 or 250, whichever the correct number is, that's a lot of employees, so a lot of them are going to be screwed. And a lot of people were like, okay, well, because The Walking Dead, the final season, the first episode came out, the second episode's coming out pretty soon, and then there were going to be like 2 or 3 more episodes. And they're like, okay, well, that 25 at least is going to stay and finish The Walking Dead, the final season. But nope, they're not even doing that. Those 25, like, skeleton team are staying just to help finish a Netflix kind of exclusive, like a Netflix deal they had for Minecraft Story Mode. So I don't know if they're just like porting Minecraft Story Mode over to I don't know what they're doing, but it's really stupid, especially when you had people that bought like, the season pass for The Walking Dead final season, just like you would any other Telltale game, and you're just expecting the episodes to come out, every 2 months, like they do, like all the other Telltale games, and you had your first episode, second episode's about to come out, and then you're just screwed, because they've confirmed that they're not making the other episodes. So, I mean, and that's just super annoying, because I played the first Walking Dead. I didn't really get into it, but I know a lot of people did, and there was a lot of, I mean, that was like their biggest series, was The Walking Dead. And considering this was going to just be the final season and they can't even finish that, it feels so bad, and I feel so bad for anybody invested into that series, because it feels like one of those TV shows that you get really into and then they get cut just mid-season for no apparent reason. And I'm so frustrated, because I gotta admit, because I mean, what happens? You had people spend money getting promised that they were going to get, 5 or 4 episodes, whatever it was, and then they're not. So I don't know if they're going to, try to issue refunds, but I mean, they issued bankruptcy, so I can't see them trying to refund people. So I just feel really bad, for anybody in that boat. For me, what really, really sucks is The Wolf Among Us Season 2, because The Wolf Among Us, they were just mass-producing games, and a lot of them were really, really bad, but they had a couple gems in there, and in particular, my 2 favorite not Walking Dead games, Telltale games were... First, Tales from the Borderlands. That game is fantastic. If you are even remotely a fan of Borderlands, I would definitely recommend it. If you're not, I would still probably recommend it. It's pretty good. It's its own kind of story. But Borderlands has always been my favorite franchise, and that game made me care about the story so much. And it's canon, so, it's not like it's just a side, oh, what if? It has characters that are in the Borderlands franchise, and they actually impact the story and the lore and the canon of the games, and it's so good. And then you had Wolf Among Us, and that one in particular I know a lot of people were really, really excited for, especially when they announced The Wolf Among Us Season 2, and we're not even getting that. It got canceled, but at least, unlike The Walking Dead, I didn't pay money and get 1 episode and then not get to see the ending. I feel really bad for that, so I really don't know what's going to happen for that, but it is so annoying. But apparently... the reason they're shutting down is a while back they, were getting a lot of flack because people were, bringing up very valid points that they were just using the same old engine, that were the same bugs in every single game. They were just mass producing these games, and a lot of them had very negative reviews. Especially, I know a lot of people complained about the Game of Thrones game in particular, and I wasn't really following up with them too much on their recent ones. But... they eventually a while back fired 25% of their employees, so I believe it was around like 90 employees, and they were trying to supposedly quote-unquote restructure their company, and they were trying to make it where they're producing quality quality over quantity, because they were definitely focusing on quantity. But apparently the reason they're just shutting down and filing bankruptcy is because none of their games apparently made money except for the Walking Dead and the Minecraft series, which definitely, if you look at their list of games, it definitely makes sense, because you look at Walking Dead and there's so much Walking Dead games that they produced, and the Walking Dead collection where they repackaged everything and stuff like that. And then it was the Minecraft one, which definitely makes sense when you see Minecraft Story Mode, and then it was the first game to kind of extend itself in the own game with the Adventure Pass, and then they pretty much immediately made the Minecraft Story Mode Season 2, and whatever they're doing with Netflix that the skeleton crew of 25 is staying on to fix, I don't know. But apparently none of them really made money. And, I mean, it kind of makes sense when you are paying so much money for these licensing, fees, because I don't know how much, obviously I'm not part of the company, I don't know how much money they had to pay to acquire the rights, as an example, for the Borderlands one, or the Batman one, or the Guardians of the Galaxies. They probably had to pay a lot of money in licensing fees for that, and they just didn't make their money back. And that's why they're shutting down. But I really, it's definitely 100% the higher ups' fault. They had success, they did the same thing Rock Band and everything did. They just oversaturated their own market. They had a formula, something that worked really, really well. And if they had just maybe released like 1 game a year and just polished that game super well, I feel like, that would have been so much better, because instead they just spread themselves too thin. They just bought all of these licenses for all of these different things. They just hired way too many people than they could handle, and they just started spitting out games. And of course those games aren't going to be as popular, because 4 billion Telltale games came out a year at the peak of it. So the only time you would really play a Telltale game is if you cared about the story. But say they release just 1 Telltale game a year, everybody would be like, oh, dude, that's this Telltale game's year, or, that's this thing. And I feel like more people would be playing the game, even if they didn't really care about the franchise, because the market wouldn't have been oversaturated by their own games, and a Telltale game coming out would be something special and something unique, versus just, oh, that's just another Telltale game. And instead of being like, well, I might play it because it's the Borderlands, series, and I really like Borderlands, or, for the people that like Batman, as an example, well, I like Batman, so I guess I'll get this one. It shouldn't have been like that. It really should have been, they're unique, they're special. They should have released quality over quantity from the beginning, and it's entirely their fault. And I feel really, really bad for all the employees that just got fired day of with no severance pay. And are just being treated like absolute trash, and it's very, very annoying. But either way, that's all I really have. There's not a whole lot of news about this, besides kind of the fact that, you know, they got fired, no severance pay, all this stuff already said. So not much more I can add to it. But if you guys have any opinions on either any of the Telltale games or what just happened, let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to hear them all. And if you guys enjoyed this video, then consider leaving a like down below and subscribing to see more content. New videos come out every Wednesday and Sunday. And like always, guys, I hope you guys have a great rest of the day.